What's up, everybody? I'm John Mello. I develop apps using no-code tools like Bubble, Integromat, AppSheet, things like that. And I think there's a lot of back and forth between coders and no coders that I find pretty interesting. So recently, I saw this post on LinkedIn and Twitter, and I wanted to kind of dissect the reactions to it because he posted the I am developer posted the same thing on Twitter and LinkedIn, and it kind of stirred up a bunch of comments, as these tend to do, and the reactions were very interesting. I don't think inherently, like, so this is the comment: the no code movement really should be renamed. Eventually, you will need some code. Um, and my first reaction to this was like, yeah, okay. I don't necessarily disagree with that. Um, it's not saying that, no code tools are useless or anything like that. I don't know what the intention of this was. Maybe it was just to stir some shit up. I think the way it was worded may, kind of may have been a little bit trolling, but uh, in general, if it's just a standalone comment, it's kind of like, yeah, that kind of makes sense to me. If you think about all of the no code platforms are built on code, right? There is a code base to them. So if you're building on a no code platform, you are working with code. You're just not, you don't see it. And secondly, if like in Bubble, for example, pretty popular no code tool, if you're using a plugin, that plugin was built using JavaScript. So you needed some code. I'm on LinkedIn now, and we'll switch over to Twitter at some point. But let's just see what people are saying about this. So Sanjeet, who is a senior consultant software. If I had $1 every time I've heard of no code, I would still be broke. Um, I'm not sure how to interpret this. I think what Sanjeet is saying is that I haven't heard of it, so why pay attention to this? Um, but like, just because something isn't ubiquitous doesn't mean that it's not useful. So I'm not sure what's trying to be said here. Graham Beaver, let's see what he has to say. I think we also need to consider the low-code alternatives, which are a happy medium in the right context, can provide the benefits and speed of no-code, such as allowing business analysts and other skilled business representatives the ability to change, update processes with the flexibility and specificity of writing code for unique differentiating functions. I think Graham is keeping an open mind to this no-code space. It sounds like he, probably has a coding background, programming background, and this is his opinion on this. But I think what he's saying here is basically keep an open mind. People be like, I'm gonna make the next Twitter without writing a single line of code. Reminds me of the Copilot fiasco. If you don't know how to code, there's no way you will be able to fix any problem that occurs in your application. And trust me, there will be errors. Well, this one's kind of interesting. Interestingly enough, somebody did recreate Twitter using a no-code tool. So it's funny that he used that example. I'll pull it up here. Uh, this, right? So someone recreated Twitter on Bubble, and it was AirDev, which is a pretty well-known development agency, and they said they did it in a week. So the example that he used is pretty funny because somebody did that, but I don't think this part is necessarily wrong. You do need to know how to, even if you're building on no code, you do need to know how to fix your own app. So not having any understanding of the technical specifications or the workings of your app, yeah, that's going to be problematic. You're always going to need to rely on somebody. But you can build Twitter on Bubble. All right. Sometimes writing code is easier than finding ways to use no code solutions. Sure, that's true if you know how to code. But if not, then it's probably not. Calling yourself low code or no code developer is like giving Legos to kids and calling them builders. That's wildly condescending. Um, there's some pretty complex and nuanced no code applications out there. particularly on the more robust platforms, that it's not child's play. There's some learning there. So I disagree with this. I disagree. Respectfully, Goran, I disagree. The problem mostly with this gets is that it's hyped as a solution that fits each and every problem that needs solving. A lot of basic scenarios can be solved, but most problems are not basic. Holy shit, this is long. And most samples show what the tech movement is good at, but rarely mentions what it's bad at, or irresponsibly gets sold as a blanket solution to all future problems, usually by online articles with thinly veiled clickbait titles. Oh, that's pretty true. I agree with that. As mentioned, this has come around many times before in the past. The problem is something that makes developers obsolete. Here is the key. This is, I think, the underlying, premise of the people who are very anti no code stuff, that it's going to somehow remove developers' jobs. I do not think that's the case. I do not think that's the purpose of no code tools. Um, Code developers are not going anywhere. All of the no code tools are built on a code base. So who's going to fix stuff who's going to build out new features for no coders to use? I don't think no code takes away anything from coding. It just enables a wider audience to be able to build software solutions to problems. That's it. So this thing is not true, and I don't think it's the intention. So stop worrying. Keys are pro making anyone's life easier, especially our own and clients. The field is so wide that they thank you. Thank you. This is exactly what I'm saying. There's always going to be something to do. So let's stop worrying. Yes. Leandre, good comment. I like this. Yeah, I don't know. I don't care about this. All right. What are your thoughts? So this was directed. This is how I found out about this. Amy is a developer, and she looped me into the combo to kind of see what I had to say. I had actually seen this before on Twitter, and I basically said what I said here. I don't disagree, but I don't think it's a bad thing to kind of, even if Bubble or no-code tools are an entry point to technology for some people, why is that a bad thing? Like it's okay to start using a no-code tool and then learn a little bit of code. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to be one camp or the other. So like myself, I started on Bubble, and now I'm learning JavaScript for the reason that I said here, because I want to be able to build plugins. So I don't know, the more tools you have, the better. Here, no code equals nonsense. That's I don't think there's too many ways you can take that one. Because everyone has specific needs and problems, and these tools cannot fix all. Sure, maybe. I don't think it's meant to be a fix-all. It depends who the end user is. That's true. It would be nice if they realized that eventually no code or low code needs some code. That's exactly what the original comment was. So I don't know what he's saying there. I don't know. That's my thought on that. Of course, most importantly, they feel they will need an understanding of concept, which is far more difficult to acquire than coding skills. This is true, right? So just because you can build something on a no-code platform doesn't mean you have an understanding of how development works. And that's a skill that I'm still developing my development skills over time. But there is a lot to learn here. It's not just about, can I put elements on a page and make a workable app to it. There's a lot of thought to it, and it's a very broad skill set, I would say. Nothing can beat understanding, which is accrued through fundamentals. Coding is fundamental, and it's understanding. It can't be eliminated. Very true. I agree with this. I think there's a fundamental. The importance of knowing your fundamentals is can't be overstated. I'm dying. Head in the clouds. Still needs feet on the ground. Whatever. Or should it be expand to not only code? Yes. Thank you. This is perfect. Not only code. Maybe that's the better name for this movement, if you will call it that, in general. Not only code. Thank you, Raheel. That is insightful. Let's keep going. Yet another fad trend for lazy people that will die an ugly death once the realization settles in that The resulting overhead and maintenance, scalability, and long-term support is not worth the effort. I don't think this is true. And to call an entire community of people lazy is very broad, right? So fad and a trend, I hear this critique quite a bit, and people bring up a lot, that these tools have been out for a while, and they tend to go in and out of style. I think all that remains to be seen. I think there's definitely a big buzz around this field right now. Whether or not it's a fad or a trend, I don't see why it would be, because there is useful software being built from these tools. So why would something useful go out of style? Like it would just get replaced with something better. I think would be the more likely option. But who knows what that is, and who knows when that will happen? So the Lathe, I think that you are failing to see the usability of these tools, and you should probably try not to sum up an entire group of people with one statement like this. More like, you will need to code really soon, and when it will be expensive to migrate if you grow or need something different from similar companies, which those tools won't offer. I think that you're kind of speaking to the limits of no-code solutions, and there are limits to them. I think certain platforms definitely make it very extendable, right? So if you do know a little bit of code, you can extend the platform to meet your needs, and that's becoming increasingly common and very robust in how much functionality you can build on a no-code platform. So yes, there are limits. There certainly are limitations of using a no-code solution, but that doesn't mean that that you can extend it. And who knows what's going to happen in 2 years, in 5 years? Like, these platforms are growing; they're still in their very early stages. So who knows what's going to be possible? Don't write it off because it's not what you think it should be today. People usually think that new tools will replace the old ones, but that's not true. Tools are tools. They are made for something and can't solve problems they don't fit. We need to understand that languages and architectures are better for some purposes. For example, we can use JavaScript for everything, but just because you can, it doesn't mean you should. This is a great comment. Thank you, Tyrone. This is exactly my thoughts on this. These are tools, people. We are not, like, I don't know why everyone's getting so emotional about this. It's not these are tools. And I know well, I do know why people get emotional about it, because their livelihoods are dependent on it. And that's emotional. But at the end of the day, these are tools. The more you have, the better. If you know JavaScript and you know Bubble, you are a dangerous person. Like, you can do a lot with that. And speaking of which, I also know a lot of traditional developers or software developers that will use Bubble for certain things. They find it. I run Bubble boot camps, and people join the boot camps who already know how to code, which is fascinating to me, because they cite it's a lot faster. I like that, that it's a full stack solution, so everything from design, database, and my Bubble calls them workflows, are all in one spot. I don't have to use 3 different programming languages for this one thing. So what does that say? People are finding this useful. I think that says it's something to be paid attention to.